Welcome back to Fast Politics, Rick Wilson.
Molly Jong-Fast, how are you?
I'm good enough, man.
You're
One
good
tooth
enough.
less,
You're
one
good
tooth
enough. You're
less.
ready to face the new world we live in
I
of
found a very cheap dentist who
um,
works on the weekends.
and God bless. It's always a benefit, right?
So let's talk about regime change.
It always works out pretty well.
Okay.
As a former fan of regime change, I've
Yes.
noticed over the decades, it rarely happens the way you think it's going to happen.
Yeah. That's what, it's funny because McChrystal,
There's a
McRaven.
McRaven and there's a Crystal Bill. There's Bill
No,
Crystal.
there's a
There's
McChrystal.
yes,
McChrystal.
hmm Stanley.
Stanley was on television talking about how it never goes the way you think it's gonna go.
Correct.
When you start bombing a country that you have absolutely no business being in for any number of reasons. Discuss.
Been to this rodeo. Tried it before, didn't work out. We have case A and case B. Case
Right.
A, George Herbert Walker Bush, my old boss, and
That
Colin.
one you were in,
Yeah,
right?
that was the one I was around for that festivity. That war was very carefully bounded. We had a bunch of rules where we said things like, and by the way, because I was a young, hot-headed, young dumbass, I was like, we should have gone all the way to Baghdad. Well, then
Yeah.
we did that the next time around and did not work out for us the way anyone wanted it to or thought it would. And of course, makes Iraq is like the starter level in the video game uh, compared to Iran. And I do think it's important we all just acknowledge the Iranian government are some of the worst possible abusers of human rights in the
Right,
universe. They are very,
right.
very shitty, horrible, bad people.
Yeah.
And cautioning against Donald Trump involving us in a open-ended, by the way, because it's never,
I
"Oh,
think that
it's one and done."
right.
No, 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 bless your heart. It does not ever work that way. Now they
Well,
get a vote. Now they get to go out and say, "Huh, okay, well, you did to us with the B-2 and these massive ordnance penetrating weapons. Now we're gonna blow up an embassy or take hostages or kill Americans or hijack planes."
right, we don't know.
We
We
don't
have
know what
no
they're gonna
idea
do
what
next,
right.
and the likelihood of what they do next sucks.
I wanna also caution that we cannot trust anything this administration does.
Right, the
So
idea that Trump came out and said immediately, and if it was funny because I got a text message from a former intelligence agency official, very high level person, who said, "Trump giving us a battle damage assessment within minutes after the raid is over, when the military doesn't know yet how
right,
effective it was." And look, the massive ordnance penetrator weapon is a very powerful device. We've never used them in combat before. We don't know what effectiveness they had at Fordow.
right.
They could have wiped out the whole thing, or they could have had an effect we don't know. They could have, look, when you're refining uranium with you have uranium hexafluoride in the refining process, you better hope that you not knock the whole fucking thing out, because if the
Right,
waste product is splashing around, that's not great either. There's a lot of
right.
things here.
There's a lot can go wrong. I mean, I think the
Yes.
top line from smart people is a lot can go wrong. You're opening the door to any number of unforeseen consequences.
Uh-huh.
And the whole justification for doing it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Look, admittedly, I was a skeptic of JCPOA at the time. A lot of serious people were. It wasn't just some of it was partisan, but it wasn't just partisan. But a lot of people looked at JCPOA and said, "Oh, this is not gonna work."
Explain what JCPOA is.
JCPOA was the international agreement that was spearheaded by the United States while Barack Obama was president to stop Iranian enrichment of fissile materials.
Right.
Because, folks, it's easy to build the bomb part of a nuclear weapon. Building the mechanical part of the nuclear weapon, the device is any sophisticated country can do it. Iran is quite a sophisticated country. Filling it up with all the fissile nuclear material to make it an actual nuclear weapon is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So this JCPOA delayed that for 5 years, and Donald Trump, because he hates Barack Obama and did not want a deal with Barack Obama's name on it, killed
Right.
JCPOA, hoping that it would speed up the process of allowing either the US or Israel to strike the Iranian nuclear capacity, but what it did was delayed it so that Iran could build up its nuclear capacity. So I'm not really sure it worked the way they thought it was gonna work, and now what we have is the there are some indications that, the Iranians evacuated the fissile material that was at
Right.
Fordow,
Right. That they may
before
have
the
gotten a
strike,
heads up.
right? And, we were the administration was certainly flagging it to everybody who would listen for the few days before.
Right.
Um, but we don't know how much fissile material got out, like how much they were able to exfiltrate. We don't know the severity of the damage yet. It will be severe. I mean, make no mistake, this is not gonna be trivial. And the Iranians are not gonna be happy about this outcome, but we don't have a super clear read yet on just how bad it is for them.
And look, it's not like we have the A team in this administration, right? We
No.
have a lot of very competent people were taken out
Like, you've got
because
Pedro del Drunco,
right,
and a bunch of these idiots. You've got his own head of the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has been completely sidelined. She's not involved
right.
in any of the discussions or meetings. You've got Marco Rubio looking like a hostage standing behind Trump today. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this today on CBS, a Sunday CBS show, but Marco is sporting a fabulous new hairpiece.
I did not notice that. What I noticed was Marco on CBS with the Margaret saying,
Mhm.
I thought that was a great moment. She said, well, military intelligence that,
Right,
assesses that they have no nukes. And he says, he gets very huffy and he's like, "How would you even know what military intelligence is?" And then he goes you can see the wheels sort of turning, and then he's like,
right.
"No, wait." He's like, "I don't care about military intelligence doesn't mean any public intelligence doesn't mean like, there is no this is moving so stupidly, and you can
Yes.
watch it moving through their brains,
Right, and
these
and
weird."
all of their mental processes, you can tell from a distance, all their mental
Yeah,
processes are, "Is Donald going to be mad at me?"
right.
That's all they
Is he
think
gonna
about.
fire
Will
me?
Donald be angry if I say something that happens to mistakenly be, the truth? And you can see that with Marco today. He was very nervous about it. I think we all have sort of come to the conclusion, I think correctly, that essentially what happened here was Bibi Netanyahu manipulated, pressured, mojoed Trump into doing this. And they're now all doing what they always do. They're having to go in reverse and reverse engineer explanations and excuses and reasons and blah, blah, blah for why this was a great idea. And
Yeah. I
and so
think
they'll
that's a
make up
good
anything to not
right.
have to say the truth.
I think that's a good point about reverse engineering the idea because, it feels so much like weapons of mass destruction now. It feels
Oh,
so
yeah, if you don't
much.
have that same vibe, if you don't have WMD vibes right now, you haven't been around in this campfire for a while because
Uh,
this is
It's
this
just
is the structure. Although it was different with the Bush administration in one key element, they got Congress to vote for an
right.
authorization.
Right, right, right,
Donald Trump
right,
told the Republicans in Congress, but not the Democrats,
right, which is
which is just
really
which is like
unprecedented.
which is like unprecedented in its douchiness, but
Imagine if a Democrat did that. But also Mike
right, once
Johnson
again, the
didn't call
counterfactual world of if a Democrat did this.
But also Mike Johnson didn't call anyone back, right? And you had Thomas Massie. I'd love to have like 2 seconds with you about Thomas Massie. Here's Thomas Massie,
Mhm.
and I understand that I do not agree with that man on almost everything. But I
Right,
do think it's interesting that Thomas Massie is standing up to Trump more than pretty much anyone.
right. He's standing up to Trump more than a lot of Democrats, to be
That's
perfectly
what I
candid.
was thinking.
I mean, there are
Why?
a lot of Democrats who are much more accommodating to Trump than Thomas Massie is.
Yeah, why?
The guy's got nothing to lose. You know what? He's in a safe district. He's been reelected a couple times against Trump's will, and he's kind of a contrarian dickhead. And sometimes being a contrarian dickhead, you end up being somebody you don't wanna have to dinner, but he is right. You gotta be honest, he's not wrong about
He's absolutely right.
He's not
Um,
wrong about the constitutional, principle here that, if you're
Now
and by the way,
MAGA
anyone who
has
thinks we're not in a
launched
war now with Iran is out of their fucking mind.
MAGA has launched from Axios a PAC in efforts to oust Massie from
Of
Congress
course.
for being insufficiently loyal to Trump.
Naturally. This is my not shocked face. He's a guy who, has a lot of name ID in his district.
Yeah.
He's probably not gonna lose that seat. I think that he's a jackass, but,
Right,
even seeing one guy in the GOP who's saying the words, "No, this is wrong.
right.
This is stupid. This is unconstitutional." I mean, I'm not saying it's some sort of, like, blessed sense of relief, but it's so unusual, it's so out of the normal bounds of the Republican world that you're kinda like, "Wow, this is weird."
Yeah, I think it's really important. So let's talk about where we are right now.
Sure.
Trump still has legislation, the one piece of legislation he's trying to pass.
Yep.
It is wildly unpopular. It is being worked to
Wildly.
the Senate. What do you think now? I mean, there's a lot to not recommend there, but do you think, and the House is sort of, they're going back and
Look,
voting in
I
and
think
out
I think
stuff?
Trump, interestingly, right now has an excuse to say, "Oh, we're at war now, you must pass the big beautiful bill."
Yeah.
And I think that may have upped its chances a little bit,
Mm.
but but if there are a lot of economic externalities right now, if he closes the Strait of Hormuz, if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz and gas prices start to spike and the bond market loses its mind, there are reasons to say, this may not work out like we thought. I'm not very sanguine for the bill as it stands right now. If we weren't a shooting game with Iran right now, the bill would probably be in more trouble. There is a rally around the flag effect from the anti-war party, suddenly
Right.
very excited about going to war.
It's just so incredibly stupid. But you think that this bombing Iran, even though it's so unpopular, the polling is so unpopular, you think it still has a rally around the flag effect?
Inside MAGA, it does. And
But
everybody
even
last
though
week,
MAGA, Trump ran on not starting foreign
Molly,
wars.
I said this to last week, like early or midweek last week, I guess. I said to somebody or on the broadcast or something. I don't even can't remember now. It all runs together. Um, I said this will end up being one of those things where MAGA, they are absolutely positively against any kind of new war. They don't want any of this neocon foreign policy. And the minute Trump attacks Iran, they're going to say, "Well, of course we had to attack Iran. We love this is a war worth fighting."
Right.
And they are. And a lot of them, you've got a lot of these guys who on paper are the hardcore MAGA influencer types. That's where this fight is causing the anxiety for MAGA is at the influencer level.
Right.
It's not at the base. It's not at the like
It's the
everyday.
Tucker
Right,
Carlsons.
it's Tucker, it's Alex Jones, it's Steve Bannon, and they're all, like, playing this game like, "Okay, shit, I hate this, but can I get away with hating it if Trump really wants it?" And the answer is they
Yeah.
cannot. If Trump wants it, the
Yeah.
base is gonna say, "Aye, aye, Captain, whatever you want." So, I think that's where
Unbel-
we're at right now.
it's unbelievably shitty.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And opens the door to all sorts of unknown
The
unknowns.
the yes, to quote Donald Rumsfeld,
Yes.
and I do think, Molly, there's a really realistic chance that Iran is going to do something truly fucking
Right.
horrible,
Right. We
and
don't
I
know,
worry
right?
about that, and I think it was easy for a lot of these MAGA guys to go, "Oh, well, yeah, Israel's already taken care of it, and it'll be fine now." I don't share that view. I think, unfortunately, Iran still gets a vote in this fight.
So, who is keeping us safe right now, Rick Wilson?
Well, Molly, I don't know about you, but if I was looking for a senior national security official in the Department of Homeland Security in the counterterrorism space, which is, of course, where Iran is extremely both dangerous and experienced,
Yeah.
I would look for a 22-year-old guy who was mm, deeply inexperienced and had
Yeah.
previously been like a waiter and a golf caddy or something like that. That's who I would pick Oh, wait, that wasn't who I would pick. That's who Donald Trump picked. We are literally dealing with a Doge-style 20-something dipshit who is in charge of our counterterrorism efforts these days because he was picked by Sergio Gore, possible Russian sleeper agent, and Trump head of personnel. Whoops.
Yes. Sergio Gore has a lot of power in the Trump
A
administration,
lot.
a lot, for seemingly no reason. By the way, I am curious, like, I wonder what's happening with Elon.
I think Elon has had a very bad week. His rocket went boom boom again.
Yes.
And so I think he's having a world of no fun right now. The ship 10 blew up on the stand. It was a terrible setback. It's gonna set him back a year or more from what people are saying. I think there's a sense in Elon world that unless he can retrain his AI to stop the wokesters, the world is collapsing around him a little bit. I don't think
And
Elon's having a good time right now.
I just want to go through a list of things that Trump promised during the campaign, the 2024 campaign. And I
Oh,
just want
yes.
for 2 seconds. Grocery prices would decrease,
Nope,
working families would get a tax cut,
not happening.
entitlements, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security would be protected,
Again, the opposite is true.
balance the budget and pay down the debt,
Hilarious.
and end involvement in foreign wars.
Well, how's that going? Look, I often say to the MAGA types who hate listen to my show and your show, you don't have to like us, but at some point you have to admit to yourselves you've been played, that you've been pranked, and I think there is a an unwillingness, of course, for them to say, "Yeah, we've been played. The guy's lied to us. He's jerked us around. He's lied consistently." But after a while, you have to admit, if the world is burning down around you, if everyone is faced with the evidence of the disaster, eventually you have to admit there's a disaster. And right now for them, this is exactly what they claimed they hated the most. The liberal international order, the deep state telling people, what we're going to do in Iran or in the Middle East. They have gotten everything backward into Trump's, indifference to them. They don't even they're like, it's like he doesn't give a shit about what they think.
Yeah.
He's having fun right now. He's got Bibi Netanyahu going, "Yeah, boss, you did it. You did it. Great work." I mean, if you saw Netanyahu's remarks about Trump yesterday, I mean, it was written by a team of Israeli psychologists who said, "Your goal is to fellate Donald Trump mentally so that he obeys everything we wanted to do forever." Because it was like, the greatest president of all time has done something no one else could ever do. I mean, madness. It was absolutely bonkers how manipulative it was. And, Trump took the bait, of course. Bibi said, "I'm the best, the very best ever."
Thank you, Rick Wilson.
You are welcome, my friend, as always.